Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Salty Nerd Podcast YouTube channel. I am delighted to be here tonight, and I see an active chat already. Thank you guys so much for being here. I got Farnsworth, Broba Fett is in the house, JT is moderating for me, R2 is also here. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. Very excited to bring this video to you guys. We met somebody very nice, very wonderful at a Star Trek convention, and we have kept in touch, and we've been working on getting our schedules to line up so that we can bring her on the YouTube channel and have a great official interview. She was one of our favorite interactions that we had at the Star Trek convention in 2020. It was peak pandemic. People were freaking out, and she came right over here chatting us up and having a great time. So I'm thrilled to introduce her to you guys. She's an American actress who's been in all kinds of crazy TV shows that we grew up with and love, like Star Trek Voyager, Seinfeld. She was in Doogie Howser. I think she had a stint on the Nutty Professor movie as well with Eddie Murphy. I am thrilled to bring on Athena Massey. Welcome, Athena. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you. And that was a lovely intro, I must say.
I practiced it all day. So the one thing I really want to get started with, and I've been wondering this since the day we met, you did something very interesting to kind of introduce yourself to us. And from our perspective, it was like one of the wildest things that had happened at the convention. I'm curious what your side of the story is. So if you would like to introduce yourself to the audience and let you know just how you met the Salty Nerd Podcast.
Absolutely. So I'm sitting at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention, having fun. And I don't know if hopefully some of you have been to conventions, so you know the drill. But in case you don't, it's lots of tables, rows of tables. People are signing autographs. And then off to the corner of my eye, I keep seeing and hearing this group of guys that are laughing, having a great time. I can just feel the energy. I know you guys are having a great time. So in between, signing and that, I kept kind of glancing over. And in the meantime, the vendor that was directly in front of me was kind of doing this little prank for the people that are walking by. And I kind of glanced at that and I kind of put two and two together. And I thought, you know what? That seems like a good bunch of guys. I'm going to go and just really test it and see how good these guys are. So I walked over. Now I had this wad of
She
cash.
still has it.
It was actually double this. It was like double thick, right? Credit cards, all that. So I walk over, I'm chatting for a while, etc. And then I just kind of casually let it drop. And I leave it there. And even then I was like, oh, shoot, I didn't really put it in a good enough spot. I didn't think you guys were going to see it. And then I go back to my table. And then all of a sudden, here I see Alex come running over. And he's like, here, you dropped this. You left this at my table. And that's when I knew you were a really good guy. So you passed the integrity test.
Yes.
But really with flying colors, even more than you know, because it's one thing to bring it back. If you would have even glanced at it, you would know that this is just like a little piece of, it's like a business card that's supposed to look like a credit card. All of these are marked, there's these can you see them now?
Yeah.
All marked. There's Chinese characters, on here. So if you would have even glanced at it, you would have, thumbed through it because some people do it. Oh, maybe I'll take 100. No one will know. But this is why I know that you are really an upstanding citizen, a great, great guy, because you didn't even flip through it. You didn't even examine anything. You immediately grabbed it, brought it back over. So I was like, good guy.
I was like, this super nice lady came over here. I had no idea at the time that you actually had a booth at the a convention, and I was just like, oh, this really not, I'm like, she doesn't look like she is like a nerd. Like she's just there's something different about her. And we started talking about wine and all this other stuff. And then when you left and I saw that there, I was like, oh my God, I gotta go give it back to her. And I ran over towards where I saw you walk away from. And then I get there and I see Athena Massey on a big billboard and posters and autographs. And I'm like, holy shit. You're an actor, you're famous, you're here for a reason. So that was a shock to me, and I'm so glad that that it all worked out the way it did. But have you done that to anybody else? Is this like a reoccurring thing?
You're the only one.
I'm the only one. Sweet.
You're the only one. And it went away. It went off so well that when I went back to the vendor that was across from me, and I said, here you go. And I said, you know what? Those guys passed the test. They're really good guys. And he goes, well, why don't you keep it? Do it to some other people. And I was like, no, that's okay. He goes, well, here. So he hands me half of it. So like I said, he kept the other half.
Right on.
And honestly, since then, it's just been sitting in my bathroom drawer. But it worked out that I could show it here on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad you still have it. That's amazing. If and when we ever do get to have you back in person here in Vegas, I would love to like to put that in our podcast wall that we have in our background on our official podcast. Like that's the thing. Have like that memorabilia.
You know, hold on here. I think you've like earned a couple of these.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the Looney Tunes money that you have.
Yeah.
So for some people here might not be familiar with your work. Of course, you're at the Star Trek convention for a reason, so we can start with that. Can you tell me about your career and your work that you did on Star Trek Voyager?
Sure. So obviously, like you said, I was there for Star Trek. I was cast to play Jessen in an episode called Remember. So ding, ding, ding. That'll help you remember which episode. And I play the love interest to Harry Kim. And I'm an Anaran. So the Anarans have these like spray painted spots on the side of their head. This stuff I call it salad, but it was this fabric. They have a certain look, obviously, as each of the different races, you know. And the powers that we had were of telepathy, but by placing my hand on your back, I could pass all of my memories and even visually to you, so that you can now experience and you know, visually and emotionally what I've gone through.
Right on. So at that point in time, the show had been out for a while, and I always think of like I hear stories and other interviews with the actors who are like the main cast on the show, and I get the feeling that that place is like a well-oiled machine once, you know, the seasons get rolling and they kind of all fall into place. How did it feel coming in as like a guest appearance, and kind of were you able to pick up the pace, or was it intimidating?
I don't feel like it was intimidating. It was just very exciting because Star Trek, I mean, that's huge. To be on any of the Star Trek series is a pretty big deal. And it's funny because even at the time, my agent goes, you know, now you're in the Star Trek family, you'll be doing conventions and, you know, everything for the rest of your life. And I'm like, conventions? What are you talking about? Because at the time, the only convention I had been to was Comic-Con. So I just never thought of, you know, going into conventions and signing autographs. I just never thought of it. I just figure, you know, you do film and TV, et cetera. I'm sorry, my eye's going to water through this whole thing because of the light. But it was exciting to be a part of Star Trek, definitely. And I was just so excited, like, oh, what's my character going to look like? Am I going to have, you know, what am I going to have on my face? You know, is what you always kind of wonder, what's your costume going to be? And it wasn't as colorful as I thought it was going to be, because I was just all green. I'll just say it wasn't one of my more attractive outfits, but it was cool just to be on set, to be able to, you know, look around and see everything. It was just a great cast to work with. Everyone obviously is incredibly professional and super funny. I mean, my episode is kind of a heavy episode because what's the word? It's a Holocaust type episode. So heavy subject matter. So of course, in between, because, you know, we're always striving for balance, the characters or the actors were always, you know, we're joking and, you know, laughing about. So it was a lot of fun.
Right on. Who did you have the most interaction with? Was it Garrett, or was there somebody else there on set with you?
Yeah. So Garrett, since I was playing his love interest, definitely interacted with him the most. And he was so sweet, so kind, really great. It was a treat because your co-stars aren't always nice to work with. Sometimes they're not. So when they are, I like, oh, you love it.
Yeah. That's always I feel like that's always something that you kind of gamble with when you take a gig as an actor. Like, okay, I want to work with, maybe you're working with a director that you know, or maybe a producer, but you have no idea the hundreds of other people that are going to be involved in making this film or TV show. So I can completely understand that. It's like going in, you're like, oh God, who's it going to be? Who, you know, I hope I get along with everybody. So what kind of things were they doing to kind of lighten the mood on set?
Just joking, constantly joking, pranking. So yeah, it was a lot of fun though.
Okay. Right on. Cool. I'm going to go back a little bit. I want to kind of understand because are you born and raised in LA?
I am. I'm a California girl.
Wow. Born and raised in LA. So acting has kind of always been in your spheres of influence. Is there something that kind of like set you off on that path?
No, it was not always. I have no family in the industry prior to this, I didn't have any friends that had been in the industry. So sorry, there's like a little fly or something right here. So it was probably a slower progression for me compared to people, obviously, that have, more connections with friends or family. But for me, I started out modeling, and then that kind of transitioned into doing music videos, commercials, voiceover, and then into film and television.
Right on. Was there something that like really kicked you off? Did you look up to any one particular actor, or did you like watch a show and you're like, man, I really want to do that? What was the thing that kicked off your career?
Wow, no one's ever asked me that. Well, the actors that I've looked up to, I'm old school. I love Anthony Hopkins, Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep, Jodie Foster, which I know we don't really see much of her lately. But
yeah, I feel like she retired, like unofficially.
I actually waited on her once when I was working at a sushi restaurant. I was a waitress.
Oh, really?
Yes, and this was right fairly soon after Silence of the Lambs came out, which at that time was like my favorite film, and it's still probably one of my all-time favorite films. And she had come in, and people were bothering her, and I'm like, leave her alone. That's my table. Leave her alone. Well, because it's like she's just wanting to enjoy her meal,
Yeah. Yeah, that's always something. Like as a consumer, I'm purely just watching the content from Hollywood, and like I can't even imagine if I would have seen somebody. I did have an experience one time. I saw Mike Tyson enter a Sprint store here in Vegas because he lives here in Vegas. And I was so starstruck, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Mike Tyson!" And I didn't want to go up to him. I'm like, "He's trying to buy a new phone. He doesn't want to be freaking nagged by a bunch of people." So I missed my opportunity, and I was like, "I don't want to be that guy." And now I kind of regret that because I'm like, "Man, it would have been sweet to meet the champ," So it's a fine line that I think us fans have to kind of ride. We're like, do we bother them? Like, how do you approach somebody respectfully? If you're out in somewhere and somebody's a big fan of you from your shows. How would you like somebody to approach you, or would you rather them just like do social media stuff?
No, it depends. Obviously, always on the situation. If someone's in the middle of a restaurant dining, you don't want to go up to their table and interrupt them. Which, because I was a waitress at that time, I was seeing that happen to a lot of people. Jim Carrey, Ben Stein, etc. So it's like, leave them alone. But if you're just going out and about, I've had people stop me in a crosswalk as I'm crossing the street in San Francisco.
Nice.
So yeah, I was like, what, huh? So it depends on what people are doing. You always want to be respectful of their privacy, their space, their family. Also, I've had where people come up and they want to immediately touch you, like hug you. It's like, you're a stranger. I don't know you. You could have a weapon. How do I know your intentions are good? Like, don't do that. Respect people's space, their bubble.
So it sounds like you've waited on a ton of like huge stars. What's your best experience with waiting with somebody who's like somebody who is huge in Hollywood?
Oh, I don't know if you remember, but there was a show called In Living Color. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it, but I can't claim that I've ever actually seen it.
Super, super funny. So Jim Carrey was not as well known as he is now at that time. And it's a great cast, very, very funny. But after filming, like I think I was waiting on 4 of them. And I was just like, oh my God, the cast of In Living Color is my table.
That's awesome.
I just had one. I was like, oh, hello, what can I get you?
And were they super nice to you?
Of course, very nice. But you can tell it was like a business meeting. So I literally would just come in, take their order, step back, bring the food.
That's good. Well, I'm glad they were nice to you. That's always another one of those things where like, so far I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of amazing people in the industry. We've talked to the guys who are producing Jason Momoa's new TV show C. Right. And they've all been super nice to us as fans and very communicative and like hanging out with us. And they do interviews like this. And my experience with you as well. I'm always on the edge of being terrified that I'm going to meet somebody that I really look up to and it's not going to go well. And it's like one of those don't meet your hero moments. That terrifies me.
Well, and you know what? I don't know about other actors, but I sometimes am like, I don't want to do that to someone else because sometimes, and this can happen when someone comes up to you at a very inopportune moment. Is that the right word? Inopportune?
Yeah, go for
But
it.
at a bad time, like bad timing, you could be in the middle of something. It's like, this is really not the time right now. So I never want to blow that for someone. I know there was a particular film, I won't mention the name, but where I was so excited about the co-star I was going to work with. I was like, wow, he's done this, this, this. Look at his history. I was just really excited and then met him. And it was one of the worst experiences of my film history work on the entire.
No.
It was so bad that he got a standing ovation when he finally left because everyone wanted him off the set.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is you can also be like, wow, this is going to be great. And then, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. I'm getting comments already that people are recognizing you, and I'm going to pull this one up real quick from Keg Crusher 04. What's up, man? Thanks for being here. It says she was in Command and Conquer, Yuri's Revenge. That is awesome. So that's a perfect segue for the next question I had for you was your career in video games, which is a huge industry and super popular with people like us, super nerds. We've been playing games forever. Ever since they come out in the 80s, we're like got our old computers up and we're playing those text-to-play games and whatnot. I would love to hear your story about how you got involved with video games and Command and Conquer, because you've earned more than one of them, I believe. You're a long-standing character. So take it away. Tell the story.
Well, let me ask the people in the chat. Does anyone know what game I did before Command and Conquer? It's be really hard. Very few people probably saw it and found it.
I know the answer, but it's because I cheated when I did some I did some homework.
There was a whole other podcast interview that I just did for it, and he even emailed me today saying, "Okay, it's coming out on October 15th." So, anyone? Let me see.
In the chat. Let's pop off in the chat if you guys recognize him from anything else.
No. What game? Do you guys know what game I did before Command and Conquer?
It was a football game, correct? Sports?
Yes. So it's called Quarterback Attack. So this is really kind of is archaic the right word? Sometimes I'm not sure. But when you see this, the video games have come a long way.
Yeah.
So I first did Quarterback Attack, where I played the head cheerleader. And because that was my first game, and this is really at the inception of the games, when I was told to do it, and when I'm looking at the script, I'm like, what do you mean there's different endings? What is that? Because normally, you've got in film and television, like there's the story.
Yeah.
Wait, and they go, well, depends on if the player's going to win or lose. Is he going to fall? I'm like, what? So it just took me a while to like get my head around it. And because I grew up with Atari, where it was this little joystick where you're like, really Pac-Man. So definitely. I was like, oh, wow, there's people in it and there's different endings. Like, this is neat. And for that one, even the football stadium, most of what you see, I show up and I'm like, there's cardboard faces just everywhere. Because of course, that many people is going to be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now let me get to your question. So after Quarterback Attack, the next game that I did was Command and Conquer. And I actually played Brink, a GDI pilot in Tiberian Sun. So I first did that game and then was offered to come back as Lieutenant Eva Lee. And I thought it was just going to be voiceover, the way the character was explained to me. And I thought, oh, okay, cool, it's voiceover. And then they said, well, no, you're going to be on screen, but it's all green screen. And again, I'm like, huh? I'm like, there's no other actors? I'm not. And they're like, no, pretty much it's you and a teleprompter. And I'm like, teleprompter? What's like? I had never used a teleprompter either. And I was really nervous about that. I'm like, wait, I don't have to memorize my lines? That's kind of cool. But of course I did anyway, because I didn't believe them. I thought I was going to show up and then be like, I don't know my lines. I look horrible. And
you'd hate it. I can imagine you hate it. Be like, you don't want to be the person who's like literally reading the teleprompter as you're acting. You can see your eyes going back and forth. There's so many commercials and TV stuff out there where they're like, it's a sponsored thing where the actor will sit down and sponsor some new pharmaceutical drug or something like that. And they're literally like, you can see their eyes going back and forth on the teleprompter.
Yes. Absolutely. So, but I caught on to that really quick. So that was awesome. I was like, wait, I'm looking into camera. You're like, of course, because the camera is the teleprompter. Mm-hmm. And so that was definitely different for me. And then that I think all of Red Alert I didn't work with any other, most of it, I didn't work with any actors. I think I had like maybe one scene with Carrie War and then came back to do Yuri's Revenge. And then there was a couple of times where I'm like, ooh, there's props and people, like this is cool.
Nice.
But yeah, so anyway, thank you, Commander.
What was your favorite part of working in that video game community? Is it something that kind of like opened up new doors for you as a career?
Well, first, my favorite part, just working with Westwood Studios. It's no longer Westwood Studios now; it's EA. But Westwood Studios, I so miss them. Like a great place in my heart for just everyone there. Again, great energy. I loved the people. It was fun because sometimes you're on a set and it's not so fun, and it can be really stressful and whatever, and people are walking on eggshells. But this was not that. Everybody was. They're great. They're professional. They're down to earth. They were fun. It was a blast. And I got to go to your hometown to Las Vegas.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it was all in Las Vegas. Yeah, and loved working with everyone.
Right on. Did you have any idea what the final product was going to be like, the actual game that you were acting in, or were you kind of just going in blind and waiting to see the final product?
Definitely going in blind for both games, for both the quarterback attack and then all 3 games that I did with Command and Conquer, because one, I'm not a gamer, so I wasn't sure like how this all gets put together, how it looks, how the games work. And the director, Joe Coogan, would explain it to me, but even then I was like, I don't really get it. And he handed me this thick manual. I think it was like this thick, right? It was like big book. And he goes, well, here's the manual. I was like, are you kidding me? And he goes, people that play the game don't need the manual. And I'm like, then why'd you make a manual? And of course they have to.
Yeah.
But and then he even gave me a copy of Tiberian Sun. So I have that in my office, along with a couple of little action figures that were made in pewter. They're very cool. Nice. But my game is actually, I think, still sealed because I don't know how to play it.
Oh, I bet you that's worth some money.
I know. Well, I think that's when I did a couple of Command and Conquer interviews. So I'd had it, propped up in my office behind. Yeah. And awesome. I just thought it'd be nice to see that. And I have the dress that I wear in the final scene. I think it's the final scene. It's the final scene that I did anyway, where there's a helicopter and it's this whole reveal where it's the first time you see, or the only time you see Lieutenant Eva Lee out of uniform in a beautiful dress. So
right on.
Yeah.
That's cool. So are video games kind of, is that a genre that you would like to work in more, like come in the future possibly?
Absolutely. I would love to. I think I was pregnant when the last Red Alert was done. So I didn't get asked back for that. Bummer. I would love to. But I would definitely love to do, if there are any more Command and Conquers in the franchise, would love to do that. Lieutenant Eva Lee is still here. But any video games, it's a lot of fun. And I just like being able to work in different mediums.
Have you kept up with how they're making video games nowadays? It's crazy. So like the mocap outfits that they put in, they actually have the actors like act out the scenes and stuff like that. Have you? Because I
all the little stickers on and do it all. No, I would love to do that because I'm all about experiences. I love having different experiences. So whenever there's something like that that's kind of physically different, I love it.
Right on. Yeah, So I've shared this with you before we recorded yesterday. We did a sound check. I was like, I've one of my dream jobs when I have the chance to actually pursue it. I want to be like a voice in a video game or something like that. And like hearing your story and realizing the history and career that you've had in video games, that's like super inspiring to me. I'm like, oh man, I would freaking love to be in a video game. It would be so cool. And I really hope that it happens for you. I hope that the Red Alert guys make another game, because I did play those games back in the day with my buddy. We would do a LAN party, which we connect our computers together and play, Red Alert and stuff together. So I think it would be amazing to have you back into that world and to see what new technology and new video games do for an actor like you to kind of step into it again. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I would love that. I'd love to go to a convention for any kind of gaming convention. So why don't you guys tell me what's out there? Just because I love to see, I love going just to see everything, whether it was like a Comic-Con or Star Trek. I get to love, I love nerding out on all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. We just had a convention here in Vegas in August. It's EVO. It's the electronic video game like tournament, basically, where people from around the world challenge each other in video game playing, like Tekken and all this crazy stuff. And my nephew Cedric, he's actually a leading member of one of his teams in Virginia, and he got flown out here to Vegas to compete in that tournament. So I got to go with him and kind of see it. It was incredible. There's so much stuff there, and video games are such a huge thing, especially in esports. So for sure, there's plenty of room for growth there. If you're trying to get back into video games, make some calls. Speaking of which, have you kept in touch with anybody in particular that you've worked with on a project?
I mean, I do mainly through social media, definitely. But when you're working, it's funny. You know, when you're a kid and you go away to, let's say, like a summer camp or something, and you're thrown into this space for, what is it, a week, a weekend, 2 week, whatever it is, and you guys bond, you do everything together, make great friends, and then you leave, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, now you kind of miss them. So working on a film or a television show is kind of like that, where that's like everything, because you're working these long hours and all of that. And it's so intensive, and you bond with everybody. And your intention is always to stay in touch. And I do with as many people as possible, but we also move off and do different things and, go
Yeah.
different places and whatever, and you're busy with the next thing. So I feel like I'm going to camp all the time. Because it is. It's like, yeah, this is fun. It's awesome. They're like, oh, I know it's over.
Yeah, yeah. We had Adam Baldwin on the podcast recently. We got to talk to him about that, and he was on a TV show called Firefly, which was like 20 some odd years ago, but it's hugely popular. And one of the questions that I had for him was like, do you guys keep in touch? Is like, do you guys hang out and like barbecue on the weekends or something? And he's pretty much the same way. He's like, I mean, I keep in touch. We have like a group chat, and if any one of us gets like a big job or something to celebrate, we'll throw it in the group chat, and everybody will kind of applaud each other and stuff like that. But yeah, I can understand. You get together for these projects, you work hand in hand for weeks, months on end, and then you disperse and you guys go your separate ways. It's got to be tough at times.
It is.
Sure.
You miss people. Like, I know if I were to just run into like David Chokichi or something, I'd be like, it'd be like just seeing like, an old friend, that, cousin,
Yeah.
whatever, that you haven't seen in forever.
So my producer has been elbowing me for the last couple of days. Once I told him that I was going to be able to talk with you, he wants to know, and I have to plead ignorance on this one. I'm not sure who this person is, but he wants to know what Don the Dragon Wilson was like to work with.
Okay, so Don the Dragon Wilson is a world champion kickboxer, and he is an amazing man. Also has a great space in my heart. So my very first film where I got to star above the title was with Don the Dragon Wilson, and he is such a nice, humble man. Like, he is badass as a fighter. He's amazing, and he's done tons of martial arts films. And Don, I know you're going to hear this, so you're amazing. He knows I adore him.
Right.
And and I had so much fun working with him on that then he also cast me to play an evil villain sidekick in Cybertracker 2 after that.
Right on.
I got to do 2 films with Don.
That's awesome. So what was it about him? Was it just he was super humble, super nice? Is there something specifically that kind of like drew you to him?
He's very kind. And again, in the industry, a lot of the times you're dealing with, or you can deal with, just a lot of ego. And sometimes people just not being nice and kind. So he was very kind, very humble, very professional. And as I was mentioning, because I love always learning new and different things, it was a martial arts film. And I was not a martial artist. A lot of the guys in it are obviously a lot of stuntmen and that have a lot of martial arts experience and background. I didn't. What happened is they were originally auditioning female fighters for this role and found that most of them couldn't act. And then they would audition the actresses, but then found they couldn't fight.
Yeah.
So I knew coming into this, like, okay, when my agent says they need someone that can act and fight, and I'm like, oh, I can't fight. I'm like, I got kicked out of high school. Well, I was suspended from high school for beating up a wrestler. I didn't start it, but I did finish that. So
that's a story that I need to ask you about once you're done with this one.
Well, I'm like, does that count as being a fighter? But I said, well, I'm athletic and I love to learn things. So when I went in and they were happy with my read, then they said, well, great, we'd love you to work with Art Camacho, who, by the way, is a fabulous director. At the time, he was the fight coordinator on this. And I said, yeah, I'll work with him. And I remember going down to his studio on a Saturday, and he started going through, a little choreo with me. And once I kind of had it down, of course, you're doing everything very slow and, not putting any power behind it. And he said, all right, you got it. So now I'm going to grab the kick pad, and he holds it up, and he goes, all right, go ahead and, give me a kick. And I kicked and I knocked him on his ground. I went, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You told me to kick the pad. So I kicked the pad. I didn't realize you were that strong.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, I loved doing the fight scenes because I'm one of those kind of girls that can't do dance. Like I tried ballet, hip hop, whatever. I suck. I can't. But so for me, the fighting, that's a kind of choreography and a whole performance that I loved. It was a lot of fun. So I'm so thankful for the Dawn the Dragon Wilson for giving me the opportunity to star in Virtual Combat and then to co-star in Cyber Tracker 2, because that actually started my love for fighting. I went on to then continue training in boxing, kickboxing. I did a little bit of Muay Thai and Savate. And then the Krav Maga Institute, I was there for a little while. So
you pursued that a little bit more than just, that's amazing.
Heck, let me just tell you, one of the best therapy is just beating the crap out of a bag, just working up a good sweat and just beating.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. Would you want to continue that? Do you want to hop into some action movies if you could?
I'd have to get back into shape. I'm not quite as fit and limber and strong and all of that as I was at that time. So yeah, which is one of the things I'm working on right now is getting my butt back into shape.
There you go. I want to see you in the next Marvel movie, just yoked right next to Chris Hemsworth.
Oh my God, I would love that.
That'd be awesome. Right. Well, I'm really happy to hear that you had a great experience. I'm sure my producer's grinning in the background. I think I can see him. He's like, that's awesome. So thank you so much for sharing that story. I appreciate it. Before we move on, I want to ask you about your acting on Seinfeld. It's one of my favorite sitcoms, and I'm sure so many people's. That show goes down in history as one of the best sitcoms of all time. And I know you worked on season 7. You worked directly with Jerry. You were his love interest for an episode. And I've always been curious what the vibe on set, because Larry David's kind of a whack job. You got Jason Alexander there, who's just a spaz, and then Jerry, of course. So I'm really curious what it was like on set working with those guys.
So it was fun. And again, I was honored to be on Seinfeld, because let me tell you, that was between that and Friends were the two biggest shows, I think, at that time. So I know when I got the call to be Jerry, to go in as one of Jerry's girlfriends, a love interest, I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. What's going to be the weird reason I get broken up with? Because you're going to be broken up with for something silly. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to eat my peas one at a time. That's breakup, material right there, sure. But and before even going in, my agent said, hey, I just want to let you know that if you are filming in front of a live audience, sometimes because Jerry's so focused on just, the performance and everything, that he might not be as friendly as if he is when the live audience is not there. And I'm like, okay, cool. I always appreciate a good heads up. But when I worked, there wasn't a live audience, and he was very sweet, funny. And that's when I had the feeling that I had walked into my television set somehow, that weird kind of sensation. Because normally when I look at another actor, you're working, it's just, we're actors, we're doing our job. Like, hi, it's nice to meet you. Or, hey, I loved your work in such and such. But this, I was like, oh my gosh. It was so exciting. I remember even walking in, the first thing I see is, I see the craft service table off to the distance. And there's Kramer doing his little head shake. I'm like, oh my God, that's Kramer. Inside, of course, I didn't. Yeah. I wasn't doing fangirl screams out loud.
That's one of those unwritten rules, I feel like. It's you can nerd out inside. You have to be professional, put a professional face on, do your job, and then freak out later. That's really awesome. So you had an actual one-on-one scene with Jerry. I've just watched the episode not too long ago. I have Seinfeld on repeat on my Netflix account. And you had that one-on-one conversation with him. How was he during when the camera said action? Was he on point, remembered all his lines, or did you guys have some bloopers that you had to work through? How did that go down?
No, it's funny. Right before we went to shoot, he's like, asking me about my experience and how I like the industry and what I was working on and all of that. And I was like, well, to be honest, sometimes it's like a love-hate relationship,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, let's hope that this isn't going to be one of those hate situations here. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it all depends on you, doesn't it?
Did he laugh at that? Was he like, I understand?
No,
Okay.
what you see on screen was exactly what I experienced.
Right on. That's great. That's another wonderful thing to hear because, like I said, a huge
Yeah.
fan of that TV show, and it's always one of those things like, man, I hope that guy's really nice, as nice as he is in person or whatever. So that's awesome. I have one last question about your career in the '90s. You had a movie called Undercover Heat, and you worked with a gentleman. Let me make sure I'm getting his name right because he has three names. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who many people will know as Negan from the Walking Dead series, also Thomas Wayne in the Zack Snyder movies. Really curious if you want to start with how you got that role in that movie. I think it's a thriller mystery, and you get pretty sultry in that movie as well. So I'm curious to hear how you got that role and what it was like working on set with him.
How I got that role. So I was actually working on Virtual Combat with Dawn the Dragon Wilson, and I was exhausted and got called in to audition for that role. I was so like tired because I think we were shooting night for day for night, whatever. It was the opposite. So I had been up all night. So I was exhausted. I didn't know much about that film when the script was, or the sides were handed to me. And they said, well, a lot of love scenes. I'm like, okay. But went in, I think I went straight to producers, and I think I had auditioned on a Friday and we started shooting that Monday. Like there was no time. No, maybe it was a Thursday or Friday. I think there was maybe one weekday before we shot. So it might've been like a Thursday or so. And I could do a whole another podcast on that movie. There's a whole bunch of stuff that whatever.
Okay.
But I will say working with Jeffrey Dean Morgan was definitely the highlight of that film.
Okay.
He and I had crazy chemistry, like great. Nobody knew who he was. I shouldn't say that. He had been doing a lot of work, but wasn't as recognized, obviously, as he is now.
You guys,
or he did Sliders and a lot of other things.
Yeah, you guys can actually find that. I think the whole movie's on YouTube, and he is almost unrecognizable how young he is. Like I watched that, I was watching it in preparation for the interview, and I'm like, I recognize that guy. Who is that? And I went on IMDb and I went down the actor list, and I was like, holy crap, it's freaking Negan from Walking Dead. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, we actually connected after we wrapped the film, and we dated for a little while. But he's a chain smoker, and I'm allergic to cigarettes.
Oh no, I had no idea. I'm not trying to dive into your personal life, but that's
no. Like I said, we had crazy chemistry. Amazing. He was hot as hell at the time. Yeah.
The interviewer in me right now is like, ask her the question. I'm like, I can't do that. All right, well, I will have to talk to you after we are done recording about that one. That's pretty cool. That's great. I see some super chats.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm very, very proud of him for all that he's accomplished. With just he's gone on to do so many great things. What's the hospital movie he did? Can't believe I'm blanking on this name. It was huge. Grey's Anatomy. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anatomy, and because I was watching it one day, I'm like, wait a minute, that's Jeffrey. And I'm like, oh, he's dying.
So you also worked on some soap operas at the time. Is that correct?
Yes, I worked on All My Children. No, I auditioned for All My Children. What did I work on?
Is it?
I don't. What was it? Oh gosh, I feel really bad now.
There's so many of them.
Hold on, because I was a young little kid. I was a groupie into not a groupie in a bad way. I'm going to a concert. What was that?
Was it General Hospital?
No, not General Hospital.
Okay. Help me out in the chat here, guys. I don't watch soap operas, but I know I saw the acting credit under your name.
Gosh, I know. And this is bad. I can't remember.
That's okay. The reason why I'm asking that question is we spoke to Joe Flanagan, who you guys know from Stargate Atlantis and stuff like that, and he had a stint on a couple of soap operas, and he said it was the hardest working environment that he's ever been on. Like those soap opera, like legacy actors expect you to know every single line. You do not mess up, and they are like rapid fire filming. There's no cuts. They're just like boom, boom, boom. And I'm curious if you had the same experience that he had.
So, well, no. So he was a series regular.
Mm-hmm. Young and the Restless, is that it?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Shout out to the producer in the comments below.
He knows what I'm doing. Lord knows I don't.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just let you in on a little secret. As an actor, what I say and what I do is all written out.
Mm-hmm.
So without that, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah. Right on. So anyway, your experience on the show. I think he did some guest appearances, but I believe he was on for at least a month, I think he said, if I'm remembering correctly.
And that's the thing with soap operas. I will say this, though. I wasn't a series regular, so I wasn't put under the grueling workload that they are. But the reason, especially at the beginning of your career, why it is really great to do soap operas, even though some people are like soap operas, right? Like that's beneath them. Don't stick your nose up. It's great work. I mean, first of all, everything is great work because that's teaching you how to get through so many pages, so much material, and to really hone your memorization skills and just everything. But yes, you're put through a lot. So when you come off of working on a soap opera, you're like, oh, we're only doing how many pages a day on this film? So yeah, it's very different.
Yeah, that's cool. So it kind of like it gets you prepped for to make other work easier, I guess, because you're going in the deep end basically with the soap opera, and it's teaching you how to memorize these lines so that, like you said, when you go into this movie, you're kind of already used to it and you can kind of just flow. That's cool. I had no idea. I have no knowledge of soap operas whatsoever. I've never watched one in my life. And it was shocking to me to hear Joe Flanagan say that he was on one. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. And how highly he spoke of everybody that he worked with. I'm like, that's not the perception that I had at all. So it's really cool to get the behind the scenes stuff. What was...
And I wouldn't say, oh, I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that it makes the other work actually easier because each thing is so different.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way television is different than film, is different than gaming, is different than voiceover. Like it's all, everything has its own kind of ways of doing things, and they all overlap. So definitely your experience in one will always help you in the other, but they are different.
I had a question about your character Hurricane from the Black Scorpion series. I went back and watched a couple episodes that you were in with that as Dr. Gale, which is a great little pun.
Why is that? Am I missing something? Dr.
Gale Force Wind, Hurricane.
Oh, hello. See, I never got that.
No?
No. Apparently I'm a bit of an airhead. I always say I'm the blondest brunette.
Oh, that's awesome.
I never got that. Thank you for enlightening me.
Yes.
I just said I was Dr. Gale Waters, and yes.
Yeah. Gale Waters, Hurricane. Yeah, there's a whole thing going on there.
Well, the rest of the other stuff I knew. But that was very tongue-in-cheek, very campy. It's a female version of Batman. I had a lot of fun doing that.
I bet.
Definitely low budget, so a lot of challenges there.
Yeah.
And that was on the Sci-Fi Channel when sci-fi used to be spelled sci-fi without the Y's. Yeah.
What does David Hewlett call it? Sci-fi, I think he calls it.
Yeah, because now it's SYFY, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So he jokingly calls it sci-fi when he's like, "Oh, that's sci-fi for you." He's a long time actor under that network, and he's got some stories for sure. Yeah. But I loved how campy it was. It very much feels like I don't know if you watch some of the more modern like CW superhero shows and stuff like that, but I feel like Black Scorpion fits right in with those. And I just had a blast watching it. You looked like you were having so much fun. You're like laying there in the beach. You had like superpowers. You could control the wind and stuff like that. It must have been a great time. Did you have any coworkers that you worked with that you had a special connection with during that?
Yeah. So I was honored to be able to work with Adam West. So one thing they did is they wanted to try to bring back as many of the original cast members as they could. So I didn't have any. So Adam West we only had maybe 1 or 2 scenes in one of the episodes, but then when we were promoting the show, doing conventions like at Shrine Auditorium, at San Diego Comic-Con, where else did we go? We did a few things, but so it was also nice to work with him in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice man. Got to work with Frank Gorshin, not on film, but again in the promotions. And Soupy Sales, though, is in one of the episodes that I did. He was a character. He was running around hitting on all the women. It was too funny. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. My costume was very, very challenging. Not only for just all the different parts, but of course, since I'm Hurricane, queen of the wind and the water and all of that, they had this cape that was a fishnet. I guess in theory that sounds great, but in practicality, I'm the one that's got to walk around in this and I have to interact. And I had a fight scene that was 12 hours of shooting to get all the coverage. Well, every time I would go to like throw a punch, the whole cape would get caught on furniture, on props. It would get caught on the other actors. It would get caught on my bootstraps. So we couldn't do a sequence. That's why it took 12 hours to film. It was like I throw one punch, cut, unhook her. Throw it, block one, cut, unhook her. Like it was just like, oh, you've got to be kidding me, because you don't have the flow.
Yeah.
People to like punch and kick and block and do all of this stuff. So and I've got this sledge. I think the stunt double that was playing Black Scorpion, she had this big not sledgehammer, sledgehammer. Am I saying it right? Sledgehammer. Yep. The big heavy wooden mouth at the end. So I kept blocking it, and when I block it, it would hit me here. Well, I'm hitting that bone over and over and over. And there was these types of glove-ish kind of things. And at one point, you get the guys going, bring in the stunt pads. And I'm thinking, finally, I'm all bruised up. You're going to finally give me some sort of stunt pads that I can put in here, right? And they're like, walking in with stunt pads, special stunt pads. I'm like, what's so special? Just give me the damn stunt pads. The guy comes in and he hands me a maxi pad, a big Kotex maxi pad.
Oh.
And I'm like, what is this? And he goes, that would be the special stunt pad. And I'm like, he goes, it's a pad. I'm like, so I'm shoving that like in my gloves. I'm like, you're low budget with the maxi pad.
Jesus. Well, it seems like you had a lot of fun on that set, though, and like I said, that fits right in with like CW superhero shows that are out right now. I'm like, oh, that's what that is. Like CW just owns that kind of campiness, and I'm glad that you had a good time on set, despite the jokes, and that freaking fishnet cape. That sounds annoying for sure. I feel like if I was like a producer or writer on that show, I would have been like, we need to film a scene where her cape gets ripped off, and then we could just move forward from there.
Well, and it's such a tight schedule that also I lost my voice because we're shooting late at night. I had this, bellowing laugh all of the time, that evil laugh, and under rain machines, all of this. So I ended up then losing my voice. And most of one of the episodes, I had to loop almost everything in ADR. It was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I could barely even get sounds out.
So after you've been on all these amazing shows, you've done all this, you took a break to take care of your family. Once you started having kids, you were like, I'm going to be a mom, and you took care of your family for how long has it been since you've acted last time?
So it's been a while. I thought I'd go on hiatus for a couple of years, thinking, I'll get married. We were building a house in Malibu, and I was like, I'll pump out a couple of puppies, and boom, put them in preschool. I'll be back to work. Mm-hmm. Well, life isn't always what you think it's going to be, because you never know what curveballs life's going to throw you. So the house took longer to build than expected. The marriage ended in divorce, and both of my children ended up with special needs. So here I was, a single mom. I had 2 kids with special needs, one that had suffered a traumatic brain injury and was needing physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, adaptive physical education, child psychology, just all of this for years. Mm-hmm. And then my other daughter was born with a rare birth defect and needed lots of medical attention, many, many surgeries. And I was just like, oh my God. I have no immediate family in Los Angeles. I have 2 kids with special needs. There's no way I could be on a film set and TV and working, 12, 14, 16-hour day. Like it's just not possible.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've got to find something that I can do from home so that I am here with my children all of the time and, taking them to all of the different, therapists and medical facilities, whatever it is that they need. And so, health and wellness being one of my passions, I started building a business in health and wellness with skincare, cosmetics, and nutrition.
Okay.
And so grateful that I was able to do that from the comfort of my home so I can be there for my babies. And it's something that I, love. And let me tell you, if it weren't for my acting career, I probably wouldn't have gotten so interested in skincare and nutrition and health and wellness, because of course they go hand in hand. You've got to be as healthy and look as great as possible when you're put on film all the time.
Yeah.
So that kept me very busy. And then, I also have like a short-term rental and e-commerce. So, just doing different things that I could do from home. And my babies are absolutely everything to me. So even now, as I'm preparing to go back into entertainment and not quite sure what that's going to look like, but it still will be so that I have the flexibility to be here with my kids as much as possible.
Yeah. I just want to let you know, I find that extremely admirable. I'm a family man myself, and I can always appreciate it when you have a career, especially in Hollywood and acting and stuff like that. And there's so much pressure to like be in the spotlight 24/7. If you leave the spotlight, you're done. For you to make that switch and say, I'm going to take care of my family, and then on top of that, provide and like start your own business and do all that stuff. I think that's amazing. That's incredible. I'm so happy that you were able to do that. Are you still active in the health and wellness and beauty care stuff? Do you have your own brand, or where can people like kind of support and buy some of your products or something?
Yes. So you can find me. So I'm a consultant, an international consultant. I'm a consultant for Arbonne International.
Okay.
So it is athenaMassey.arbonne.com is the website. But you can also hit me up on social media. And what was the other question you had asked? Sorry, I lost it.
I was curious if you had your own brand, or you're consulting with
Yes, I'm a consultant with Arbonne.
Okay, awesome, great. That's awesome that it was able to help you make ends meet, and that you were able to take care of your family. That's great. And you're now that your kids are grown and everything's worked out, you had a wonderful time with your kids growing up. You're looking to get back into the game. That's correct, right?
So I'm now working with a vocal coach so that I don't lose my voice when I'm working on things, because that was happening quite often because I had never trained my voice properly so that I wouldn't lose it.
Mm-hmm.
So I am now currently doing that. Also, a lot has changed since I had stepped away. So there's a big learning curve. I need to get caught up with all of this, technology and self-taping, and everything's just done so differently now.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, I feel like I'm starting all over, even though, I would have a little bit of a leg up on someone that is just starting right now. And I'm not quite sure, like I said, if I would be traveling as much as I used to, because I'd go away on films and be gone, usually like sometimes like, 6 weeks to 3 months. Which was fun because I love traveling. And I'm so blessed to have gone to so many different countries for work. So definitely want to get back into the traveling, working, etc., but also still be able to be here for my kids.
Right on. Is there a particular genre, or like you're not afraid of camp, you're not afraid of the superhero genre, you're into video games as far as like the production of them and stuff like that? Is there one in particular that you really prefer to kind of like dive back into?
Well, I love action films. I love drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really love drama. I love psychological thrillers. That's probably like one of my favorite genres. I haven't ever done anything in horror. One of the sci-fi films that I did had horror elements, but I haven't done horror, probably because, one, it scares me. I do get scared. That's why I like the psychological thrillers, but it's without the gore.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think maybe horror would be nice so that I can face my fears and also tap into a genre that I haven't, really done so much. But I love action, comedy, sci-fi. Honestly, what's more important to me than the genre is just being able to work on a project that I like the character. I like the writing. Of course, if it's a director and a cast that I love and respect, that makes it even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then also voiceover. I'm also been training in voiceover because I know that that's something that I can do from home as well. Plus, especially I don't have to be in tip-top shape to do voiceover. See me.
Yeah. Just your voice has to be on point. And we were talking about this yesterday on the sound check. We were talking about how tough it is to get into the voice acting thing. And I was telling you my short story about how like I was laid off because of COVID, so I had a break where I wasn't like going to my 9 to 5, and I was like, I'm gonna give a shot. I'm gonna do narration and book stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm auditioning for like 50 or 60 projects, and I maybe got a call back from like one or two. I got one book to narrate, and it was this very very small project on Audible, and I'm like, I don't want to share it with anybody because I was so bad at it, and I'm like, oh, I need a couple more under my belt before I start sharing them with people. But I can completely understand like you're coming into a pretty much a brand new industry, because you said it like kind of resets every 5 years or so, like how the industry works. So you're coming back fresh. It's got to be intimidating, but I'm glad you're getting back into it. I'm really really hoping that I can see you in a new project very soon. That'd be awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's intimidating because when you see other people that hadn't taken the break, like, oh crap,
Yeah.
look at all this that they've done and learned and how they've grown, and you're
Yeah.
like, I gotta like hustle to get caught up. But
Yeah.
you know what? It is what it is. And I know that taking care of my family and being there for my family, but I would walk away from it forever if I needed to be there for my family, because
Yeah.
that's what's the most important. If I can have both, then that's great.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
nothing trumps my family.
I completely agree with you. That's awesome. So I have a question, because I've been curious ever since I've met you. You have been amazing to the fans that interact with you, and I'm always curious. Like, you had a great perspective when I got to sit down and chat with you at the convention. We did a live stream just like this with the chat and everything, and you were like, "You guys are why I get to do what I do, and I want to show my appreciation for that." And I thought that was a wonderful perspective, and I was curious. That thought process and that love that you have for the fans. When did that? How does that grow? How do you still feel that way? Are you still going to be doing conventions? Tell me about that.
You know, so what just popped into my mind is I dated a soap opera star. God, what was it called? Santa Barbara was the name of the soap opera. It was a short-lived soap opera, but I had dated a soap opera star for a while, and I remember one day seeing all of the fan mail that comes in, for these stars, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, how in the world do you answer all of that?" And of course, he's like, "We don't answer that."
Hmm.
But, oh, you don't? It's like, no. And I know that maybe the studios do or something, but I just remember thinking, like, I'm looking at piles and piles of letters thinking, every one of those represents a person that has taken their time to handwrite a letter that they're being touched by your work. And I just remember, it'll probably never leave my mind, like, wow, how can that be neglected? And so then when I started getting, and I used to have a P.O. box in Beverly Hills for the fan mail that I would get. And when it would come in, I tried my best to respond to everything that I could. But I would then quickly learn why it doesn't always get answered, though, because
Yeah.
I will say this. One, it can be really overwhelming. Two, people send you some inappropriate stuff. So that's not going to get answered. And then there's the people that kind of unfortunately take advantage of a good thing and will sometimes give you this made up sob story of, this is my situation, blah, blah, blah. They want the free autographs, all that. But it's mainly people asking for autographs and not realizing, well, that's someone's time, and you've got to pay for the letter and the envelope and the postage and all that. So it's like, yeah, how do you deal with all of that? So I understand it from the fans' point of view, but I also understand it from the actor's point of view. So it is kind of a thing that does tend to slip through the cracks. So back in the day before the internet, I actually did have a physical fan club. And so a very good friend of mine, Brooks Wachtel, who is an Emmy Award-winning writer and is incredibly talented. And by the way, if you're taking his writing class at UCLA, you are so lucky. But he helped me, and we would sit down and we wrote out actual newsletters every month where I had the photographs, we'd write it all up, and then we mailed it out, snail mail, yes, with stamps,
Yep.
for people that joined a fan club. So that's what I did to, work with mine. But I am feeling kind of guilty right now because I know that in my garage right now is a big box filled of stuff that I haven't answered. So, because it is overwhelming. You can't like answer it all. So, yeah.
So, are you pretty active on social media? I know you have Instagram. That's how you and I have kept in contact over the last year or so. Are you looking to kind of use that platform to get back into the game and kind of get your name back out there?
So I've been posting on Instagram and on my Facebook page, which both of those, by the way, are Athena Massey official.
Mhm.
So
Real quick, everything that's attached to Athena, all her social medias are in the description of this video down below. So if you want to follow her, scroll down on the video and click those links. They're all right there in the description. Go ahead, Athena.
thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I'm not on top of it like I probably should be, and like I know some people are. One, because I'm really private, and two, it's just a lot of stuff. I don't know how you juggle all this stuff. I didn't do it, but yeah. So I do try to post things on the Facebook page and on Instagram. So
Right.
there's definitely more interviews that will be coming up that are in the pipeline, and just I could put it out there as people are releasing them.
Awesome.
But yeah, so please definitely check in there, because that's where I'll post if I'm going to be somewhere. For example, I will be doing the Hollywood show in Los Angeles, February 3rd and 4th. So for anyone that's in the vicinity, definitely a smaller convention than, of course, than Comic-Con or than the Star Trek convention where we met. But I do try to do about 1 or 2 conventions a year. Of course, I had that 3-year block or break because of, I don't know if we can say the P word or the C word. I'm not talking bad words, you know what
I think we can.
Virus thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can say pandemic. That's not against
I
YouTube.
mean, okay, I just know like social media like was getting. Like,
yeah, they do freak out about that kind of stuff. But as long as we're not saying that they're completely lying about everything, we should be fine.
Right. For everything, right? Of course.
So you're planning on kind of like reintegrating into the convention circuit and stuff like that. I would definitely encourage you to head up some video game conventions here in Vegas. I think there was a comment from Joker's Voice. I wish I should have started, but he's a local Vegas guy, and there's a convention in town called, I think it's Level Up or something like that.
Okay.
And it's a video game convention. Definitely with your past with Red Alert, I think it'd be an amazing opportunity for you to come and say hi to some of the fans of that video game.
And that's in Vegas, you said?
Yeah, that and EVO is also, but that's more of like a tournament thing. So I'm not sure if that's more in line what you're thinking. I think the convention is going to be the Level Up one, but I'll send you the information for that.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd love to see you out here again. And let's see. Okay, so it's been about an hour, guys, which is the time lot that Athena has been gracious enough to give us. So I'm going to wrap this up real quick. We've got a couple of super chats. Thank you guys so much for your incredible generosity. Backyard TARDIS for $10. That's amazing, man. Thank you so much. Said, when you were a guest on Star Trek Voyager, who made you feel the most welcome?
Garrett.
Garrett
did. Yeah. Just, he was so sweet. Yeah. Very, very sweet, very accommodating. Yeah, like I felt like he was my personal tour guide, just showing me around set, introducing me to everyone, making sure that I had a good time, that, I enjoyed the food, like just everything. He was just very, very kind. He has a huge heart. And then I connect with him every time I've gone to the Star Trek convention, which it's been about 3 times now in Las Vegas. And he's just such a really, really warm, humble, and nice guy.
He has a podcast as well, I think, that he created with the I wish I could remember his name, but the actor who played Tom Paris, which was the pilot for Voyager.
They interviewed me on there, and by the way, I don't think I ever saw that.
Oh,
or I ever got. That's the thing, is sometimes I do interviews and I'm like, and then I don't know, but I need to find that from him and actually post it so that people can see it.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, they interviewed me.
Cool.
As well. So yeah, that's great that he's got his podcast too.
Yeah. I always enjoy it. Like I've seen him, I think, twice now. I went to 2 conventions here in Vegas, and both times I connected with him, and he's always incredibly nice. He chatted with my wife for a long time. no purchase, nothing, like no autograph or anything like that. He just chatted with her because she's really in love with that show. Star Trek Voyager means a lot to me and her. We when we first got married, we used to watch it together all the time, and
Oh, that's
we
great.
watched it growing up and stuff like that. So we were thrilled to be able to talk with him, and then meeting you, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a dream come true. This is awesome. So it's a great thing, man. I really hope that the Star Trek convention is continuing in Vegas. I know they moved the location. They're at the Bally's Hollywood, not Bally's Hollywood, but Bally's
Yeah.
Hotel, and it's a smaller venue. And I think they lost the license because of Paramount, so they're not like illegally allowed to say it's a Star Trek convention, even though it is.
Oh,
So I hope that they figure that whole thing out and that it comes back to the Rio or maybe even a bigger venue, and they kind of like slap the official tag on that thing, because it's a big deal for us here in Vegas, like to have that every year. We
it
love to be
is.
able to
It's
go.
huge. Yeah, I had heard about the move. Because I know some things were changing with Creation and was it Sony? Maybe?
Paramount is the one who owns them,
Okay.
and CBS I think owns Paramount. So it's like there's like four different people that have a claim to Star Trek, but Vegas is like, but let us have our convention.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right. The
Yeah.
next super chat here from JT, who has been moderating the chat. Thank you, sir, for your service. I reached out to you, and you're like, absolutely, I'll be there. So thank you for the $5. Very generous. Great interview, Alex. Athena is a great guest. I think you misspelled great. Athena is a great guest. Thank you, sir, so much. I'm happy to have you in the chat, and thank you, Athena, for being
Thank
here
you.
as
Thank
well.
you.
And last one from Jude, my co-host for the podcast, the redheaded daft cow. So talking about like social media and having negative aspects of that, we made a joke out of it one time. We made a video. We read all of the meanest comments that we got on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that. And somebody called poor Jude a redheaded daft cow, and she was like, "You know what? I'm gonna own it." And she's like, so now she has it as her tag, and it's amazing. She wants a shirt that says,
Oh,
"Yeah." I love it. She's got a great sense of humor. She doesn't take any of this stuff seriously. $2. I'm gonna owe you a cup of coffee tomorrow, Jude. We're gonna meet for our podcast, so I'll bring you a cup. Athena, you're fantastic. So excited for this. Yes, again, Athena, it's been great. I'm so glad we were finally able to make this happen. I know it's been
yes, I know. It's like a year in the waiting, right?
yeah, a year plus. I think it was almost on the anniversary.
I know it was so close, and then my computer had just died. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
And I had to
So
wait for the M2, and then that got sold out, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So for background information, I've been trying to make this happen, and we had a date scheduled. I think it was like sometime in August or maybe July, and like the night before we were gonna go live, your computer completely crashed, and you like emailed me or messaged me on Instagram. You're like, "Oh my God, everything just died. I don't have anything. I can't use my mouse." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess we'll have to postpone."
Yeah.
Um, so Jude dropped another $2. Come to the Salty Nerd basement when next in LV. Yes, absolutely. We would.
I definitely want to. Well, my daughter's best friend had moved to Vegas, so perfect road trip. We'll
Yeah,
jump.
excellent. Yeah, well, the next time you're in town, hopefully we'll have a brand new studio. That's supposed to be on the DL, but hopefully when and if that happens, we'll have you in studio with us, and we'll have a great time talking about some awesome movies. And speaking of which, I want to ask you what your personal favorite movie is. I know you mentioned Silence of the Lambs. Is there another movie, or is that like the top one?
Um, it's what's funny because I can never remember things. I just know from back in the day. And then I think of it. I'm like, gosh, that's old. I'm sure there's other films. I loved Sandra Bullock in Bird Box. Oh my gosh, that was good.
Mhm.
What else? Because lately I've been just binging TV series. I mean, hello Netflix, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like right now I'm watching In the Dark, which amazing. Have you seen that?
I have not. I haven't even heard of it. What is it
Oh,
on Netflix?
yes.
Okay.
It's about a blind girl, and wow, like so been loving that. Obviously I went through the whole Game of Thrones like 2 or 3 times. And then I went through all the vampire stuff, like the Vampire Diaries, and then what was after that? Whatever the other spinoffs were.
Is there anything that's coming out that you're looking forward to in the near future?
The Game of Thrones spinoff. What is it? The Dragon?
Oh, the House of the Dragon?
So yeah, I just started like half an episode and fell asleep. So it's
Oh,
like
no.
So I was like, okay, I have to be well rested because I like
Yeah.
to do at least 3 episodes and then I'll go to bed.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. We cover that every week on the podcast. On Mondays, we do a complete breakdown of the latest episode. So it airs on Sunday night. We watch it, and then Monday morning we wake up, we come on here, and we talk about it. So,
Oh,
um,
okay, well,
it
I'm
has
not
been
going to listen
yeah.
until I see
No spoilers, no spoiler. I won't spoil it for you, but it has been really, really good. We, as fans,
it.
we were all really worried that we were gonna have like a repeat of like the season 8 debacle and like the story's gonna fall apart. We were all kind of like biting our tongues of whether or not this is gonna actually be good, and it has stuck the landing. I've been really enjoying this first season. It's a little slow, but it's a lot of like really good setup for what I feel like is gonna be an incredible season 2. So,
Okay.
definitely check it out for
Because
sure.
this is what I want to know is it worth me investing any time in it? Because I will say, when Game of Thrones, the finale, I was like, are you kidding me? That's it?
Yeah,
That's how you end this?
you and everybody else on the planet.
Because you've invested so much. And because I'm telling you, I watched it, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's everybody. Everybody on the planet said the same thing on season 8. We were like, that's what you end with. This is like, yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get it. But this show thankfully has a completed story. They have the source material, so and they've been sticking really closely to it. They've only made a few changes, some of them for the better. Like my co-host had pointed out this week, something happened that what didn't happen in the books, but they feel like they actually improved upon it. So,
Oh, good.
um, fingers crossed that they stick the landing for the continued seasons, but it's really good so far. So I think you're going to enjoy that.
Okay.
All right, so that's going to be the end of the interview. Athena, thank you so much for spending the time with us and setting this up. I know it's been a year in the making. We finally made it happen, so I'm so happy to have you here, and I really hope the best for you jumping back into the game. I can't wait to hear the great news on your next project, whatever it might be. And I look forward to seeing you at conventions and hopefully in Vegas sometime soon.
Yeah. And hit me up if you guys ever come out to LA.
I
So,
will. I will. Absolutely.
yeah.
Is there any final words that you would like to say to the audience that's listening?
First of all, just thank you so much for everyone that is tuned in. I can't wait. Will I get to read the comments later that's in the chat?
I don't know if the live chat stays in there. You might be able to. I think I can help you do that. I think it
So
sticks in there.
love to read that because right now everything's a blur. But no, thank you guys, everyone that's tuned in. I'm so appreciative. And thank you, Alex, for this time and for the interview that's finally happened. And I can't wait to meet the rest of the Salty crew and, come help you guys christen your new studio. So
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mum's the word. Everybody in the chat, keep it quiet.
Amazing. Right.
All right, everybody.
The Salty crew in Vegas.
Yeah. We're going to sign off tonight, guys. Thank you so much for your support. The super chats are amazing. And everybody who's in there in the comments, my wife is even in here. She's like, when he's going to be done.
I can't wait to meet her.
I know.
Was she at the convention and I didn't get to meet her?
I don't think she might have been there in passing, but she wasn't there for the like full stint. Like, she was there as my support. I think she brought me coffee a couple times, which was much needed. So,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, yeah. When you come back in town, you will meet her. You will meet her for sure.
Okay, I'm do it.
All right, guys, we're gonna sign off. Thank you all so much for being here. Stay salty, my friends. We will see you live on Twitter Spaces tomorrow morning. If you're into that, we are going to be reviewing the Hellboy movies. So Hellboy 1 and 2 by Guillermo del Toro, the good ones. And we look forward to seeing you guys on Twitter. So make sure you follow us over there at salty_nerd. And we're live every Tuesday talking about all kinds of cool stuff. So we'll see you there. And have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much. See ya.